It
Yeah, but what
depends.
if that planet is racist?
Too much. You know, like, yeah, better on. What if they just know something? That's true.
Yeah, but
Okay.
we're live now, guys.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to season 3 of Let's Talk. This is the first episode, and we're here on Zoom again, but that's okay. We're still gonna make it fun and exciting. So today we're here with 2 guests. You wanna just introduce yourself? Let's start with Rasheed.
Hi, I'm Rasheed. I'm 23. I work at Bristol City Council as a member support officer, and I'm excited to be here and take part in this discussion today. Thanks for having me.
Okay, and hi, I'm Chris. I'm an artist from Can you hear me? Okay, hi, I'm Chris. I'm an artist from Bristol, and I'm very happy to be here today.
Cool. So if you guys are already aware, today's episode is called Why Should I Vote? And we're just going to be talking to different people, different young people about their experience with voting and their opinion on the whole thing. So, Chris, what would you say about voting? Like, what's your opinion on voting and politics?
I don't think people should stop voting. I just don't vote personally. This is like a lot of reasons. It's not like just one, but there's a few reasons. No, I have nothing against people who vote, and I think it is important to vote. I just don't personally see any use in it.
Okay. Cool. So, Rasheed, what about you?
I do vote, and I do think people should vote as well. I do think it's easy to get a bit disillusioned with everything that's going on right now, and to sometimes like not see how your vote matters or feel like your vote counts in the grand scheme of things. But I do think it is important to, people died for us to have a vote, so I think it's important for us to utilize that.
Cool. So let's just start off and talk about voting in general. Like, why do you feel like a lot of young people have bad feelings towards voting or don't want to partake in politics?
Okay, sure. Could I start this off?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at like the current MPs since I've personally been born, so from like 97 to current to now, it's been people in these elite places, like they're already born in a good environment, and they already like their family already knows these people, so they're bound to get that position to be in power. You would never get someone like a regular person who will be in that position of power. It will also be hard for someone like that to relate to a normal person or to understand that normal person's problems, because they've never been through that, or they don't have the experience to understand what the problems for a normal person would be.
Yeah, I agree. Rasheed, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think there's an issue with the fact that like young people don't really, I don't feel that they're really informed or like educated about politics. So you have to kind of come from a certain background or be exposed to a certain group of people to kind of have that knowledge in the first place. And if you don't have the motivation or the knowledge to go looking for it yourself, then you're not going to educate yourself about it and you're not going to do it. But I think if it was more compulsory, if people were taught about it, then they'd be more motivated to act on it.
Mm-hmm. So, because a lot of young people have bad feelings towards politics and stuff, why do you think it is that still the elder generation go out and vote, and more elder people vote than young people?
I think I have I can think of reasons for it. So it could be they're already in a good position. They're voting to. I'm not saying everyone, but they're voting to help themselves. They're voting to help. Maybe they're doing it to help their business or to help their retirement fund. Or I see it that way. They're doing it for that reason in particular. They won't do it for problems like for now or for the future, because it won't affect them in the future.
Okay. Rasheed, do you agree?
Yeah, to a certain extent I agree. I I don't know. I think older, older people, like I do agree. Older people are in a good position and are secure. But I don't know. I do feel like I'd really like to stress as well that I do really think the lack of education and lack of knowledge and just lack of general awareness of young people and lack of focus on them means that they just aren't in the position to be able to go out and vote necessarily. I think if we focus more on them, then we could increase the proportion of young people that are out there voting.
Okay, you guys. So in politics, there's been a big discussion for a long time now about the voting age and like if we should lower it. Do you guys feel like we should lower the voting age or keep it the same?
Okay, I feel like it should stay the same. Although like it's just I see like people being easily influenced. Like when you're younger, you can easily be influenced by a teacher or someone who you look up to, and they could easily say, do this, and to get like a bigger result. That's how I'm looking at it. That's like a scary side of how I'm thinking of it. Or you could look at it from the good side of you have like more young people like being involved.
What is the current voting age right now? Is it 18 or is it 16?
Yeah,
It's
it's 18.
I think I would argue that it should be lowered, but I'd argue it cautiously because I think it like lowering the voting age is a big thing to do, and like it voting is a huge responsibility. At the end of the day, a vote of someone that's chosen to educate themselves and be informed about it is equated to someone who doesn't educate themselves and isn't informed about what they're voting for. So I think, yes, I think we should lower the voting age, but there should also be a requirement for people that are voting to know what they're voting for or to know, to be informed. I think especially regarding policies that are about young people and how young people live, like we're experts in our own experiences. So young people should be able to vote and contribute to decisions that are affecting them, and they would know best how things should be implemented to, shape their future, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree. But on the flip side, some people think that young people shouldn't be able to vote. So you feel like when you hit a certain age, like you're elderly, do you feel like you should be able to vote? Because people would argue like the morals are different. Would you guys agree?
I was thinking about it before. That maybe once you reach like a certain age, like maybe you'd be too old to vote. I was thinking about it, but everyone should have the right to vote. But the issue I have isn't exactly the age, because there's going to be more like people retiring than people like working, and like from this generation there's going to be less like of the Generation Z's like working to so there's going to be more people like there's going to be Generation Z's working, and there's going to be people retired. The previous generation retired eventually, but what eventually will happen is like a population like implode. So if you notice like how people are having like less and less children, there's going to be more people on retired, and they're going to be able to just vote what they want. There's going to be like a group of doing what they want.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Not really.
I'm confused, but I think I get where you're coming from.
Stara, can you repeat the question for me? My mind went a bit.
I was just saying, like how there's an argument about if young people should vote, and some people are saying they shouldn't. Do you feel like on the flip side, when you get to a certain age, you shouldn't be able to vote, like when you're really elderly?
Oh, I don't know. I don't ever really want to get to a point where I say that people shouldn't be allowed to vote. I think that is very dodgy territory. And, it is important to have, a democratic society that represents the broad range of all of us. So I would say no. Yeah, no, I think no, I don't agree with that.
Okay, right, we just got a question. Someone said, why should we vote if no one listens to us? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's actually one of my points as well that I've written down. Like quite often when MPs get elected, you notice like quite after like a change in behavior or promises are not fulfilled. And it could be worrying for like whoever is going to vote for the next election. They might not want to take part in it.
Sorry, I think a lot of the time when you're trying to start change or when you're trying to get people to listen to you, it doesn't start with loads of people, it doesn't start with loads of people agreeing with that position. Like to push change, it's got to start with one person. And I guess that's the reason you've got to vote, because at the end of the day, if no one, starts that conversation or initiates that movement, then no change is ever going to happen. So yeah, eventually people listen, which is, I guess, why you should vote.
Okay, so this other question came in and it says, do you think politicians even care about young people voting?
No, I don't. I mean, okay, I don't want to generalize too much, but I think for me, the fact that like there are lots of things in school that we have to learn compulsory, and politics isn't one of those things. You have to get to like GCSE or you have to get to A levels, and you have to opt to learn that. So if you don't have the natural interest, or if you think it's above you, or if you think it's not interesting, you won't learn it. And I think if politicians cared enough about young people voting, they would, try and steer us down the path to be informed for ourselves. But they don't. I think they leave us to fend for ourselves, which is a problem.
Do you feel like politicians secretly don't want young people to vote? Or like get involved in politics?
I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't know if they don't want young people to vote. I'd like to hope that most people do actually believe in the importance of democracy and the importance of everyone having their voice heard, and what they believe how they believe everyone should live. They should be able to vocalize that. I don't think that they don't want young people to vote. I just think they're maybe a bit apathetic towards whether young people, take the initiative to go and do it or not.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Chris?
Was the question, do politicians want young people to vote?
Yeah, like I asked, do you think they secretly don't want young people voting or like getting involved in politics?
I'm not sure. I don't even think it matters to politicians, because they already have maybe like a percentage of people or a demographic they're looking towards. Maybe they overlook young people. So I think maybe they don't care at all.
I see. So this question is a bit different, but do you think you could be friends with someone who has like a different political view than you do?
Yeah, of course. It just depends on how extreme it is.
Okay. For instance, I don't know. So, what if you were to support like a political party? Which one would you feel like you lean more towards? Imagine they went for something like the complete opposite to that. Like, do you feel like you could still be friends with them?
Yeah, I want to say yeah. I still want to say yeah. It's just it depends on how extreme like a person is about like their beliefs. on how extreme they are in like in politics as well.
Rasheed, what do you think?
I cautiously say no. See, most of the time I don't really speak to my friends about politics. Like the majority of friends I have, I really try not to speak about politics. I think it is such a controversial and touchy area, and a lot of the times I'm just like, sometimes I hear things and I'm like, now that's really disappointing to hear. So let's just not tread in this weird territory. But yeah, I mean, I think like Chris said, it does depend on how extreme the views are. At the end of the day, I guess it depends a little bit why you support that party. But if our views are like completely conflicting, it's not that I wouldn't treat you nicely or have respect for you, but like, do I want you necessarily in my inner circle if we don't have the same foundations and we don't? No, not really. No.
Yeah, we'll get more into that after, because right now we're going to be watching some interviews where we interviewed people from different political parties. So here it is.
Years, and I am a member and supporter of the Lib Dem.
So my name's Hattie, I'm 25 and I'm a Bristol resident, and I work in homelessness and complex needs.
My name's Roddy, 25 years old, I work for NHS and I'm a Conservative.
Ronnie, and I work for Butler Outreach Lead. Thanks for having me.
What do you feel like your party stands for?
I think the Lib Dems stand for what I would call a middle ground. In the past, my friends have accused me of sitting on the fence, and I do, to a degree, agree with that. Ultimately, though, the points that they really stand for are to support Europe in a firmer manner, ideally by reversing Brexit, if that's still possible, or by having another vote on Brexit at some point.
I believe the Green Party stands for environmental and social justice. I believe they are advocates of social mobility, and I believe that their policies reflect an understanding of intersectionality. So a big focus on protecting the one world that we live in, making sure that our economy is sustainable, and making sure that we're bringing everyone with us on this journey.
I think the Conservative Party stands for giving everyone the opportunity to really make the most of themselves. So through strong education, having a good start in life, and making sure that everyone gets a strong education, that everyone can get a good start in life, but also through a strong economy, allowing us to have the jobs to allow us to make money, do the best for ourselves and our families.
I think it stands for a lot of things. I think the thing with Labour is that it's quite a broad umbrella, and people sort of join it with people of a lot of different identities join, who want a lot of different things join. But ultimately, I think what it stands for is people, and making a better life for people, and equality.
Why should young people vote for your party?
If I was a young person right now looking for a party to vote in, I would think, right, this is a party that really wants us to be at our best and wants to improve our nation for people.
I believe that climate change is the biggest existential threat facing the entire world, and as a young person wanting to have a safe and secure future in it, and one where I feel comfortable to have children, is really important to me, and I don't think any party takes that more seriously than the Green Party.
Because we really do give everybody the opportunity to get ahead in life and to achieve what they want.
Okay, so I think, so fundamentally, I think that young people should just vote, and who they vote for doesn't matter. But why I vote for Labour, ultimately, although they have a long way to go, they best represent me, and my ideals match best with what they stand for.
Should we lower the voting age?
The stance of the Lib Dems is the same as every other party except the Conservative side. Yes, the voting age should be lowered. And I think, on balance the probability, I agree with that. I do have some reservations.
I have been passionate about politics since the age of 12, and if we're hoping to kind of implement long-term policies, and I think it makes sense to have a better representation of the people who are going to feel it most.
I don't. I think the turnout in the youngest age group, 18 to 25, is quite low as it is. There has to be a cut-off at some point, and I just don't see a justification in lowering it below 18 when youth engagement in politics is low enough already.
I think we need to lower it like right now. I think there are 16-year-olds who, I think we need to lower it, but also we need to like broaden political education. Everyone needs to understand who they're voting for, what they're voting for, and politics needs to be as essential as maths and English and science are.
Why do you feel like most political leaders are people from like a higher class?
Only thing I can put my finger on there is it's to do with education. I believe in private schools or the education that those higher classes are afforded. That is very much more a part of kind of their whole rounded, enriched curriculum. Whereas in state schools, we're quite we have to stick to quite a structure, or we believe we have to stick to quite a structure, to the point where we're relying on either just being independent enough to go and do our own research, or we're relying on parents and friends and family. And I think a lot of the families that are perhaps not so well off do not have the time or the expertise perhaps to support their children in forming those judgments and doing research about how it all works.
I think it's a real privilege to be able to spend time and think about the way that you want to see the world. I think if you're a single mum working 2 jobs, or you are more concerned with where your next paycheck's going to come from, then it's a bit of a luxury really to feel as though you have the time to contribute to political movements. That said, I think it's those people whose voices need to be heard more. And as a result, I'm a big advocate of people getting involved in politics at the local level.
I think it's always been the case that if you're wealthier, if you're of the upper classes, you can always afford more opportunity. But I do really think it's changing. And like in all political parties, if you look at the 2019 intake of MPs on, the Conservative Party, Labour Party, it is getting more diverse. And I think, I do think it's changing for the better in that anyone of any political party, people of all political parties tend to be more diverse now from a different range of backgrounds. I think that's for the good of everyone.
Because that's just how the system was made to start with. Like, it was just made that way. It was made for higher class people. The system is just one that we've been adapting. And like, really what we need to do is just totally reform it and start from scratch again.
Why do you feel like people of colour tend to vote less than white people?
I mean, I would, in my eyes, everyone can make a difference. Yeah. And I would like to think that is the general consensus of all Lib Dem members and supporters. However, because of the establishment, as they call it, over many, many years of the kind of white, middle class, generally male people running government and politics, I think a lot of ethnic minorities probably think, well, that was never, ever set up to support me. Those factions are not interested in me being involved in those discussions. And as much as I would like to change that and have a difference, I never will be able to. So almost, why should I? And that I think is the only that's the reason that stands to mind for me.
I think the reasons are many and varied. I think historically, much like people of a working class don't see themselves reflected in today's Westminster bubble. I think both as a woman and people of colour and people of working classes, they don't see themselves there, and they don't believe that the people that they see serve them. As a result, I believe people become completely disenfranchised, furthered when policies that are promised to us to improve our social groups are dropped instantaneously, it seems.
I think a multitude of reasons, and there's no simple answer to that question, but I think it can overall be summarised with feelings of of isolation from the system. and like things don't work for them, so there's no engagement with the system. So I think that's what it boils down to, but it's a multiple reasons: discrimination, historical reasons, that there's so many reasons that people of color, non-white people, have been discriminated against and unengaged with the system. And I think the way to counter that is to really engage people in the system, make the system work for them, so they feel like they can engage, and it will better them. You know, they can do something, they can change things if they get involved.
Our system is racist, like institutionally racist. For a long time, it was used to oppress people of color and put them down. And rather than totally reforming it, all we've done is adapt it, which means that it continues to be like an incredibly flawed system for people of color. People of color cannot rely on it. So it's so hard to feel represented by it, and it's so hard to feel like it's going to support you and that you're buying into, and like it's so hard to buy into it because it's not for you. It wasn't created for you, and it's only been like, it's like the changes that have been made to it are so surface level. We haven't really got to the root of it, and there's so much denial as well around it, and like refusal to accept responsibility. So I think like it just doesn't work. It's not representative, and it's a racist system, and we just need to overhaul it, really.
How do you feel like we could get like people of color and young people to vote more and like be more interested in politics?
First is to engage with young people more, and that's young people of all backgrounds. That's not just going into Harrow and Eton and saying, you know, we want you next Prime Minister. But I think it's about saying to young people, right, we're the Lib Dems. We're looking at building our new manifesto. Here are some policies we're looking at to support young people. What do you think? And actually involving young people, going into schools, having those conversations, looking at communities. I think that's such a big thing. Most cities in England are the same to an extent in terms of diversity. And I think why not absolutely take advantage of that, get people who are supporters of political parties or who work for government or even just for community initiatives, get them in there, speak to young people, even in primary schools from the age of 10, and start to speak to them about politics, talk to them about democracy and freedom of speech and the fact that a parliament stands for those people. I think it's so easy for people to become disillusioned when they feel that government isn't standing up for them.
I think making the effort seem relevant to that person, which is why I'm a kind of keen advocate for local politics. So I believe you're more inclined to vote if you can see tangible changes take place in your community. So from litter picks in Barton Hill to improving play areas, that kind of thing makes people appreciate that even though it can still be incredibly long-winded, change can come about. I think if you're voting for big economic fiscal policies, the chances of it impacting on you or you really feeling the difference, unless they're quite radical, quite slim. But I also think that politics needs to be taught in school. I think there's so much misinformation out there at the minute that we really need to kind of get a grip on that as a society and ensure that people understand what's real and what's fake.
With policies centred towards young people, to give them an actual stake in the policy. So it has to be like a youth-focused agenda, because the youth are the future, and make them realise that we're here to build the future for you, and you need to engage with us. You can't change things if you stay at home. So I think really get the message out that you can change things. Your voice does matter. You just have to make it heard. So.
I think we have to actually give them power. I think there's been a shift towards people being like, yeah, we need to consult with young people. We've got to consult with young people. Like, what do young people want? And then you might have a focus group and you might listen to lots of young people being like, we want this. And then you're like, yeah, cool. And then that's it. And you take their ideas and you use them, but you don't give them any power. And you just can't do that. You have to put the power in young people's hands. I think we need to stop thinking that young people are incompetent and actually give them power and actually give them responsibility, because they'll be able to do so much more than a lot of people I think that's the start, and also it'll just galvanize people as well. If they know they will actually get power, if they know they can actually affect change, then of course they're going to vote, of course they're going to get engaged. But at the moment, if all you're going to do is listen to their ideas and then like interpret them how you want to and use it for your own agenda, like that's just not going to happen.
Okay, guys. That was really interesting to me to see like all the different perspectives and everything. What are you guys feeling after watching that?
Chris?
Sorry. I do, yeah. After watching it, I was I did like understand where like a lot of people were coming from. Some stuff like stuck out to me, like how things that should be taught in school aren't taught in school. But without those things being taught in school, it's sort of as if you'd expect it. You'd expect this to be the outcome. And also how low the young people turnout was already. I didn't expect it to be that low.
Rasheed, what about you?
Yeah, it was interesting, and it was, I think it's useful, I guess, to hear what different people's perspectives are and to see where they're coming from, in, I guess, in isolation. Yeah, I think I most identify with like Labour values. So stuff that Bavania was saying was stuff that was most, sat most right with me. I do think there are issues that we should think about. Like, I think the person who spoke for the Green Party talks about how that party is most focused on making sure that we live in a better environment and have a better climate and protect the world. And I do think that that's important. I do think that like her points would resonate with me. But I think there was also discussions about making sure that parties make sure that everybody has opportunities to thrive and to shine and stuff. And I do think that's really important. I guess, yeah, across all parties, you can kind of see where people's interests align. It was interesting. It was informative. It was good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The question I found the most interesting was the one about why do you think more white people vote than people of color? It was good to see like the ranges of responses to that. Like, what do you guys think is the reason why people of color are voting less than white people?
Yeah, I think just more certain classes of people are just more educated on the subject, or maybe a family member, maybe, or I'm not sure. I'm not sure why, but I think more people are just educated on the subject, like from a certain class.
They're not class, race. Like, why white people?
Yeah.
People of color.
More, well, the people who tend to be in like a lower class tend to be like BME, like ethnic minority people. That's why I think it could be like a class issue relating to race as well.
There is white people who are from a lower class.
Yeah.
I just feel like the race and class thing, they're a little different. Rasheed, what do you think?
I think that politics in general kind of has a certain affinity to whiteness, in that I think most of the issues, the lens that we look, sometimes it feels a bit like it doesn't really matter how many people of color vote sometimes, because the majority of our country is white, and therefore the laws and the way that things are looked at, they're kind of looked through a white lens. So it's sometimes I think it's kind of difficult to see yourself as a person of color in that policy, or like the change that's kind of brought forward doesn't necessarily seem to like reflect you, or like you don't see yourself in that. So yeah, I think that's the reason we see more white people, is because immediately I feel like the policies that are implemented have a direct effect on them, and then they maybe affect us afterwards. I don't think they affect us necessarily in the same way. We're not really necessarily dealing with the same issues all the time.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
So we did get some questions coming in. Someone asked, how and when do you think people decide to support the political parties that they support?
I think it's a lot about influence. So sometimes it's about your family. It's about who. Oh, yeah, I think it's always about influence. Actually, it's about like your family maybe, or your friends. It's about the information that you read, the people that you, yeah, the people that you just surround yourself with, the information that you read. Everything like feeds into your political perspective and your perspective on life. So I think depending on, yeah, definitely depending on what you've been exposed to and who you've been exposed to, will definitely affect your political like outlook and your worldview.
Mhm. Someone else asked, do you give young people power, or do you empower them to recognize their power?
I think I think you've got to do both, but I think they're separate things. Um, you can empower someone to recognize their power or like their worth, I guess, and they still not actually have the power to do anything. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's both. You empower them to recognize that they are powerful and they have the ability to make change, and you also give them the actual ability to make change. I think it's both.
Chris, what do you think?
I'm so sorry. What was the question?
So it's, do you give young people power, or do you encourage them to recognize their power?
I think it should be encouraged for young people to recognize their power. I feel like the more people know what they can do and what abilities they have, then more action would be like taken.
Yeah. We've got another question. It says, don't you think it's a bit extreme to say the system is racist? That girl was quite radical. What do you think about that question?
uh,
I would say it's just fair to say it. I'd say it's quite fair. Just judging how things still haven't changed much um, from like we could say like 10 years ago. From it hasn't changed much from since a long time. Things aren't in the open anymore. It's more like systematic with how with like how things are set against people.
Yeah. Rasheed, what about you?
Yeah, I agree. I don't what was the word? Radical. I don't think she's radical. I agree with some of the statements. I think a lot of the time when people hear the word racism, they assume it's got to be hatred or malicious, but sometimes it's other things. Racism manifests itself in other ways, like through like apathy and like just not understanding where people are coming from. And yeah, I feel like like I think what she said as well is that a lot of the changes that have been made have been surface level, and for the systems to benefit every racial group equally, the changes need to go deeper than that. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree, because I just feel like the people we're seeing representing us is not very diverse to the people of this world. Like only 10% of the people from the House of Commons are actually people of color, and that's 10%. But if you look in society, there's a lot of different people that aren't being represented. So I think it's fair to say, even if it wasn't intentionally, it looks racist.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
We got another question that says, are there things that you think political parties could be doing to connect better with young people? Chris, what do you think?
I think like there is like I've seen a good decent approach, but what someone said on that film we're watching, that they like each party doesn't go into like schools, or they don't go into colleges and stuff. More outreach could be done to show support, to show that you support young people or you care about young people. I feel like there should be a little more effort.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Rasheed?
1 second. Okay, what do I think? I think more of like focus groups. I think it's about speaking to young people and finding out like how the things that they're implementing are actually affecting their lives. Like I feel like a lot of the like changes in policy and legislation is very top heavy, but like most of the time for things to be successful, you need to kind of like build and work with the people that you're actually affecting, so that the change is, what the policy that you're making is actually in touch with the people that you're trying to make policy for.
Another question. Is it okay to vote Conservative and talk about it? What do you think?
I think it's pretty much been conservative.
Yeah, like they're in power right now, right? So.
Yeah. And is in either way, like whether it's Labour, like Labour's is okay, but they still have conservative values, and people are still, and a certain like class of, this goes back to the class thing. A certain class of people is always like, they're always regarded higher, and their opinions are always regarded higher. Like they're supported more in a way. Like if I think is okay or not, I don't agree. Like I just don't see the difference between the Conservative and the Labour Party.
Okay.
I see very few differences.
Okay. What do you think, Rasheed?
Can I pass? I think everyone is entitled to their opinion and to vote how they see fit. But personally, if like, is it okay to vote Conservative and talk about it? To me, not so much. Like, I don't necessarily want to hear about that. But I do still think that everyone is entitled to their opinion and stuff. So yeah, but not don't talk about that with me.
I agree, like obviously people are voting for them, like they're ruling the country right now, and I just feel like it's okay to vote them, like that's their opinion, so that's okay. But you guys, it's coming to the end of the episode. Let's just quickly answer this last question, which says, which party do you think cares the most about young people, specifically young people of colour? Chris, do you want to answer?
I would say Labour, just because there's been a lot of support done for young people, like especially like immigrants, like coming from this country.
Okay. Or what you received?
Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement with Labour. I think it's just their their motto or their slogan is for the many, not for the few. And in terms of like, I think the last round of voting that we had was the first time that I actually sat down and read everyone's manifesto, and like looking at the things that they had in there in terms of people of color, LGBT groups, like all minority groups. They just seem to be the group that was like gunning for them the most from my perspective. So yeah, I think they support young people and young people of color, definitely.
All right, guys, it's the end of the episode, the first episode of season 3. It went well. This was a good discussion. I hope everyone who's watching enjoyed this discussion. And, we'll be back here in another 2 weeks for an episode talking about exams and why we think they should be cancelled. So if you're interested, make sure you tune back here in 2 weeks' time. Also, you could join our family. Make sure you subscribe to Babassa's YouTube channel. But also, you could click the link in the description if you want to get involved with Babassa. If you have any problems, you want to help with your education, you want advice on anything, you know, Babassa's here to help. So just click the link in the description. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching.